I thought if we ever broke up, I would feel this tremendous sense of relief. I could go back to being myself. But something happened. I fell in love with you or something. And I stopped being a loner.
Dylan, I think that's wonderful.
I think it's terrible.
You can look the other way once, and it's no big deal. Except it makes it easier for you to compromise the next time. And pretty soon, that's all you're doing is compromising because that's how you think things are done.
We call it Clean Up in Aisle 9, or Yeah, But. It's the Al Travis Show, but we've got Senator Susan Kent on. Love having her on the program. I really feel weird of even discussing this on a couple of us. First, we do talk radio. We have to discuss it, okay? I have to. The paper has to print the news of this story. I get it. But this guy's a nut job from day one, and to give him any time bothers me. Do you get what I'm saying, Senator? Is that make sense? You gotta.
Yeah, you do gotta. And I think it's important that people really kind of look at this, right? I mean, there has been, and this is, I think, at root some of the biggest problems we have right now in this country, and you can see it popping up in a number of different news stories right now, that there are people and businesses, because I keep coming back to this, there are people and businesses that exploit audiences for money. They tell them things that may or may not be true, and they do it and make money off of it, right? And that's why they do it. They do it in order to make money. Yes. And so, there are people who have bought into conspiracy theories and total distortions of reality, because it makes sense to them when they hear it, but it is put out there with such a sense of urgency, and it's so dire, and our country is at risk because of X, Y, or Z things. Yep. That are problems, absolutely, but they are not the kinds of problems that will undermine our country. And then they feel empowered to arm themselves and defend their country. And I will say, I'll put right up there, and I know this is going to make some of your audience maybe drive off into the ditch, but one of them was the big lie that the 2020 election was stolen, and that justified a bunch of people who felt absolutely within their rights to march onto the Capitol and violently attack law enforcement in trying to take over our Capitol, right? And so that's sort of where we are with this one, that this guy grew up in this environment that told him that some of these things were so awful. And yet I don't know whether he started off with some sort of mental disability and he was prone to that information because of it. That's why a lot of us who've been in positions of leadership take seriously that we don't fuel those kinds of fires, because we know that there are vulnerable people out there who will take them seriously and act on them. But fundamentally, this is the stuff that undermines a democracy. A country where everybody's vote should matter, where everybody's opinion should matter. We should be able to debate things respectfully, even if we disagree, even if what you believe goes completely against my values, and vice versa. And I think that's what you do really well on this show, Al, is that you give people like me an opportunity to talk about this stuff. But this should not be a partisan issue at all. We should all, and again, we've had this conversation across a number of circumstances where we have said violence over politics is never okay. It is not the answer. But the problem is when it does happen, it really is what erodes the system, and just in terms of the state legislature, and this, Melissa was a friend of mine. I adored her. I worked so close. I was elected when John Hoffman was. We served on committees. We worked closely together. I adore Yvette and Hope. And, this, as a human being, this breaks my heart because of people I care about. But beyond that, it has terrorized and scared a bunch of other people I know and care about in the legislature and staff, and both sides, because everybody realizes this is a bad vulnerability that has just been exposed. And then for our state, but also for our country, we should be paying attention to this, and for other reasons just than this guy's a nut job.
I don't disagree with anything you said except the whole J6 thing, but we're not going to get into that. You brought up John Hoffman, and I want to go down this road just for a minute. He didn't make it Monday, a physical therapy thing, and John, you do you. He thinks next Monday he will make it. this is not something we're holding him down to. We're going to play this by ear, and we'll get him back on the program.
Yeah.
Programming note, I'd love to hear your thoughts. My wife and I discussed this yesterday, day before. What do you discuss with John when he comes back? Senator Hoffman, little Spectre. What do you talk to him? The thing everyone wants to know, describe it. What do you see? That's not my business.
Yeah. And I will say, from learning from other victims of all kinds of different crimes, you want to let them lead the discussion. You want to show you care. You want to know that you are here if they want to talk about it. And particularly since you're, in this case, we're talking about things in front of, thousands of listeners.
Yeah. Just between you and I, John, what do you think? Yeah, that doesn't go very far.
But you don't push too far, because, literally, and this is something that police agencies have learned over the years. Every time you question a victim of certain types of crimes, you re-traumatize them, and we don't want to do that. And so I would just, and I know this.
I got my list of 11 rapid fire weird questions. Who cares? I just want to talk to John. I want to hear his voice again. He wants to talk music and Prince. Let's rock and roll. I have no problem with any of that. Yeah. But it's just, I know people. Oh, John's going to be on, and Al's going to have him on, and he didn't ask one thing about this. Yeah, I think we'll get there, but it isn't now, and it's up to
him. Let him, and I think a great question for him at some point when it feels right is, what do you want people to hear and know?
Yeah,
and maybe it's about music, Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it wouldn't put it past John in the least. So anyway, I thank you for that, and the other thing is we have to, because it's always going to happen. I think so far we've been pretty good with the Hortman. At least legislators aren't politicizing it. I haven't seen it yet in my thing. We've done really well. Very happy with that.
Yeah.
But this all stops now because we have to get back to the politics of politics. And what I mean by that, we now have a special election. There's more than enough people going to run for her seat. If we're going to have a special session, and I'm going to ask you, this is my question to you, and I know it's on the other side, but you know this stuff. It was Demuth, Representative Demuth, and Hortman were co-speakers, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, you get another election, a Democrat wins. Do you have to have a special session so the Democrats can come in and nominate and vote for their leader? Because they're leaderless. So, I don't mean to make this callous, but how do you get that power back?
So at this stage where we are between sessions, unless there was the need for a special session for like a natural disaster or
the big bad bill, that's what we're going to talk about, right? The governor's talking about a special session.
Right. And so, I'm just saying, in theory, in practice, we don't have to have a special session. And so the caucus can vote for their leader, who can then act as the leader on their behalf in a variety of ways. They just can't sign a bill into law, that kind of thing. So it's
so that they could get their ducks in a row, pick Johnny Johnson or whoever to be the new leader, and then the second the special session starts, first thing we do is say then there's Speaker Emeritus or whatever you want to call it, and then we move on. Okay, just again back to this is new for me. This is news for Minnesota. No one knows how this works.
This part is new for everybody, but the reality is because of people retiring, leadership changes between sessions routinely, and it gets handled, and we know how that works. So.
All right, fair enough. And you know what? The rest of us don't follow along these close. So I don't want to make this about politics, but it's going to get there because we have to keep going. Yeah. So on this, let's bring up this. What's his name? Vance Belzer.
Yeah, Belzer. Yeah,
Belzer. He wrote a manifesto, whatever you want to call it. He wrote this big letter to Kash Patel, evidently. It was in his book of secrets. I don't know what you want to. When I read it, and again, back to, I'm not necessarily saying, the Star Tribune is not wrong to publish it. I'm not trying to rip them. It is news. Here it is. You make it, and they just put it down, and you can read the whole stupid thing. But when you read it, I just watched a movie, and Liam Neeson, I think it was Unknown. This guy watched a movie and he thinks he's some third level spy, 007 crap, and none of his stuff makes sense in the letter either. Don't read it if it doesn't make you want to read. Don't read it. It does no one any good. Your thoughts? You read the letter?
I have not read the letter.
Okay, good. Don't.
And I may. Again, I go back to the real story behind this is it was political terrorism. It was a political assassination, and, this guy's particular deck of cards is what it is. But I'm telling you, I, as a elected official, received all sorts of emails from people who thought things about me that were so far out of left field, but they believe it because people are selling it to them. And we can't look away from that. We have to understand the degree to which some people are feeding misinformation, is the polite way to term it, on purpose to make money. And people believe that, and then they act on it.
And this is the point. So I don't know journalistically, and you run a newspaper, if you will, internet news. I don't know where to stop this. Star Trib gets this. They put it in. I get it. New York Post evidently is interviewing the guy, and he's throwing out all this weird crap about when all the real truth, they only put half the truth. When it all comes out, you'll understand it has nothing to do with my political beliefs. I'm like, what in God's green earth are you talking about, you knothead? I have no time for him. I just don't. But like you say, somehow they got the in. They're writing those things. But that lets this guy, if this is nothing but political and some weird, just get more room for it. Where do we stop?
It is a balancing act. And, I will say that the Rupert Murdoch owned New York Post is part of a media conglomerate that makes an awful lot of money of disinformation. But I'll throw that out there. But, I do think it's important. It's like the Unabomber. It was important for people to understand how far off base he was. Same thing here. But there is an editorial judgment call about how far you go and but people, I've run into this. People do not understand the depth to which there are a bunch of Americans who believe stuff that is absolutely incomprehensible to 85% of us.
But let's not pretend this is new. I love your deck of cards here. I don't know what his deck of cards is, but who was it? The guy who shot Reagan because he thought the actress, he was in love with the actress, whatever her name, Jodie Foster. Jodie Foster's like, what in the heck are you talking about? They're just nut jobs in the world, is my point. You're just going to lose it.
There absolutely are, and that's why we have to have some basic security and protections on the one hand. And women in the news media know this better than anybody, right? Because they get these weird people, looking up their driver's licenses and stalking them and stuff. But but there is a difference between people who in their own right are off kilter. There is another problem where there is absolute basic conspiracy theory nonsense being peddled for money, and it amplifies it in people who maybe would have been marginally okay if they hadn't heard this stuff.
I know the theory you're talking about. We talked about it on the program. I know this, but the shadows are off. We have never been to the moon. People know we've never been to the moon because who took the picture of Neil Armstrong stepping on the moon if we've never been to the moon? I'm just teasing people.
Yes.
We'll be back after this.
If it's your turn to host a game, Grandpa's Barbecue suggests you try something different. Put out the perfect barbecue flavor of Grandpa's Barbecue. Add it to your ribs, dip the meatballs, or drench your wings in the original flavor of Grandpa's Barbecue. It isn't too hot or spicy, fruity or smoky or whatever. Grandpa's Barbecue. Available in select stores and online at grandpasbarbecueshop.com.
There are many ways to explore Alexandria. Some like to experience the outdoors and all the fun winter in Minnesota can provide. Pick your favorite way to get in touch with nature. Others like to explore downtown in the warm comfort of a boutique or gathered around a table with friends. You can do all of that or relax and do nothing at all. Come explore Alexandria. Start planning at explorealex.com.
It's nice to know a guy that knows a guy. Al Travis.
I've got her. She's Senator Susan Kent. Yes, I keep telling you we'll talk about the big, beautiful bill. I promise. I know you want to, but if I give you 3 minutes, you're going to say, I can't cover it in 3 minutes. So let me do this, because this is the topic of the day because of what we've been talking about, the shooting. You've been in the Capitol. You're there. The only stuff I'm hearing currently about changes that need to be made, some folks are saying the Capitol needs to, ban guns or do something like that. I don't know, put this. It seems like an answer, but it doesn't seem like an answer that solves this problem. This guy drove to people's homes for heaven's sake. It had nothing to do with the Capitol. Right. So do you have thoughts on what could make you all safer in this situation?
I do think that putting in meaningful security in the state capitol is good for not just lawmakers, but citizens who are there, because there are far more of citizens than legislators on any given day during the legislative session. And guess what? A lot of them are kids on field trips. So putting that out there. And I remember, I don't know how many of you have visited the state Senate. It is a almost round or square room. Mm-hmm. It's very deep, and it has a gallery on the front and in the back. And there have been times when there have been controversial bills up and tight security was put in place. People had to have a ticket to get in. And they had to go through like they couldn't just walk on in, is my point. And so, but I can't even tell you, when you're sitting down in that thing, you're literally sitting in a bucket that if somebody was able to start shooting, it would be horrible. And so, we can do that. I was in Texas visiting family, this summer, and my husband and we stayed near the Capitol in downtown near the university too. And we walked over to the Texas Capitol, which historically has been open 24/7. Anybody could go in whenever they felt like it. And we walked in, and there are metal detectors when you walk into the two.
That's what got me. Didn't you just spend, I don't know, was it $700 million something renovating the Capitol?
Not that much, but it was 350. But okay, yeah.
So you're talking the House thing is going to be 3 times what the Capitol was to refix up the House. They're redoing the House.
I don't think that math works, but it is a lot. But it's fixing an old building and building a new one, basically.
But for $250 million, I guess
by the way, the Senate building was only 90. Let's just, because there was so much hay made over that one, just start.
But I don't understand how all of them don't have undetectable, but walk-in metal detectors. To me. We're to a point now that stuff is not as intrusive. If you ever been to the St. Paul City Hall, that's just like heart-lung machines you got to go through. It doesn't have to be like that. So I find it hard. I'm sad we don't. Now, I'm a big gun guy. I don't mean that in a freaky way. I don't know guns but I believe in it. So I would think first step is you go in and sign, if you're carrying, we want to know. I walk over, I got my carry permit. I might be a senator who carries. Yes, theory, walk through, it goes off. Yeah.
Right. In theory,
then we know who to watch.
Right. In theory, we have that policy now. If you're going to come in carrying, you're supposed to let the sergeant at arms know. And I think it's the sergeant at arms you're supposed to let know. But anyway, that's an honor policy. Yeah, somebody who.
Well, no, that's why that's got to be followed by it has to be followed by a metal detector, because if you go through and you didn't declare and you got one, okay, now we got issues. Know what I'm saying? That's all.
But we have there is State Patrol is in charge of Capitol security. Those nice people are definitely armed and well trained, and I don't understand why we can't just leave the firearm carrying to them, and the rest of us can.
I think 99% you're right, but when you talked about the bowl you're in as a senator, I think as a senator I might not want to wait the 4, 5, 7 seconds, whatever it takes to. Hey, people come. There's something.
They're literally right. They're literally right there.
All right.
State Patrol, if you walk up to the Senate chamber or the House chamber, they are right there at the doors, just like most of us.
Fair enough. We never got the big, beautiful bill done, but I'm glad we got to talk about this. Senator, I love having you on the program. You know that. Appreciate you a ton.
It's always good.
She's Senator Susan Kent. Clean up an aisle 9 or a yabbot.